Most citizens never heartbeat. Most citizens never noticed it. The city of Verramore woke each morning with a heartbeat. Most citizens never noticed it. To them, the tremor was simply part of a landscape, like the wind or the hum of the geothermal vents. Children joked about it, merchants ignored it, and even the scholars at the College of Elemental Studies treated it as harmless background magic. But Ira Mellon, apprentice cartographer and occasional troublemaker, felt it every time the ground quivered under her boots. She stood now in the pre-dawn market square, watching the lanterns flicker with a soft golden light. The pulse came again, a thump so low it felt more like a memory of sound than sound itself. There it is, she thought, pressing a palm to the cobblestones. It's getting stronger. Her mentor, Master Theron, said she was imagining things. The vents are shifting, he insisted. Perfectly normal for a growing city. But Verramore wasn't growing. It had already grown, far past what anyone thought possible. Its power, its warmth, its endless supply of energy came from the heat deep beneath the ground. Everyone believed the same story. The city was built atop a natural volcanic spring that never cooled. Everyone was wrong. Era knew this because, for the past month, she'd been hearing a voice. Sometimes it murmured like smoke drifting through her thoughts. Sometimes it rumbled like a storm behind her ribs. And sometimes, like now, it whispered so clearly it seemed to come from just beneath the stones. You walk too fast, little spark. Era jerked her head up, eyes wide. She spun, trying to spot the speaker, but the square was nearly empty. Only one old woman was nearby, selling day-old loaves from a stall patched together with mismatched boards. She glanced up, spooning oat paste onto a flatbread, and squinted at Era. You hear it again? The woman asked. Era froze. Hear what? You know. The woman tapped the ground with her foot. The deep one. Era's pulse spiked. You can hear it too? The woman only smiled, an unsettling smile, ancient and sharp. Then she shoved a loaf into Era's hands. You should eat, she said. You'll need strength for what's waking. And before Era could ask anything more, the woman vanished behind a curtain of steam from her cooking pot. Era swallowed hard. What's waking? Second the first crack. Verramore was built in concentric circles, inner rings of ancient stone, outer rings of newer constructions. And at the very center stood the warding obelisk, a towering pillar carved with runes of heat containment. Era found Master Theron already there, pacing. Late, he muttered, though he hadn't even looked at her. Come. The obelisk readings have shifted again. Era jogged to catch up. Shifted how? In ways they should not, he said flatly. The obelisk thrummed with faint red light. What had once been a gentle glow was now almost feverish. Runes spiraled up its sides, pulsing like veins. Theron approached the base, scanning the symbols etched into his glass tablet. See here? He said, pointing. These runes track geothermal stability. They've begun cycling irregularly since last week. Something is pushing up from below. Pockets of heat more intense than any we've recorded. Era's chest tightened. Master, have you ever considered that the heat isn't geological? Theron snorted. If you're still chasing that ridiculous theory about a creature under the city? A dragon, Era said quietly. Theron turned to her sharply. Dragons do not exist, not in the way you imagine. They are metaphors, symbols, myths misinterpreted. But what if they're not? What if the city had wings and flew into the sea? He snapped. We deal in facts, Era, not fairy stories. Era swallowed her frustration. Fine. Then explain the tremors, the strange voice. Voices, Theron interrupted, are a sign you need more sleep. Era clenched her fists, biting back a retort. But then something interrupted their argument, something that made both of them fall silent. A crack appeared across the base of the obelisk. It was hair-thin, a mere glimmer in stone, but it spread in seconds, branching like a web. Theron stepped back. By the founders! Aira watched in horror as steam hissed upward through the fissure. The ground trembled violently. She felt the pulse again, stronger than ever. The voice rippled through her mind. Little spark. It begins. Third history in ash and bone. That night, Aira returned home, unable to silence the whispering. Every room of her tiny loft seemed too tight, too hot, too confined. Her mind kept replaying the cracking obelisk, the trembling earth. She opened her journal, flipping to sketches she'd made in secret for months. At first they were doodles, abstract shapes and curling lines. Then they grew more detailed, scales, wings, talons. An immense serpent-like silhouette coiled beneath the city map. The voice had not given her an image, nor a name, only a word. Razur. Was that the creature, the place, or both? Aira hesitated, then dipped her quill and wrote, "If there is a dragon beneath Varamor, why is it sleeping? Who put it there? And how has the city survived so long atop it?" She didn't expect answers, but the night had other plans. A soft knock came at her door. Aira tensed. Hardly anyone visited her, especially after dark. She opened the door to find the same old woman from the market, the one who had spoken so strangely that morning. "You should come with me," the woman said. "Why?" "Because the Deep One is stirring," the woman replied, "and you're the only one hearing him clearly." Aira swallowed. "Who are you?" The woman grinned. "Name's Wilva, last keeper of the Ember Watch. Now hurry, we've little time." Aira hesitated, but the ground quivered beneath them again. She grabbed her satchel and followed. Forth the Ember Watch tunnels. Wilva led Aira through back alleys, down crumbling stairs, and finally to a rusted grate set into the foundation of Varamor's oldest district. She kicked it aside. Down. Aira ducked into darkness. The tunnel beyond smelled of dust and sulfur. Runes etched into the walls flickered as they passed, glowing faintly with amber light. "What is this place?" Aira whispered. "The Ember Watch," Ilva said. "What's left of it? Long before the obelisk, before the college, before the city even had a name, there were guardians." "Guardians of what?" Ilva gave her a look. "Of him." Aira's breath caught. "So it's real. A dragon. Real as stone," Ilva said. "Real as fire. Real as your heartbeat." Aira felt dizzy. But why would a city be built on... "It wasn't," Ilva cut in. "The city was built because of him. His breath heated the ground. His dreams fed the land. The first settlers mistook it for magic." She sighed. And over centuries, knowledge became story. Story became myth. Myth became forgotten. They reached a vast chamber, a circular room with murals carved across every inch of stone. Aira raised her lantern, awestruck. Dragons spiraled around the walls, colossal, elegant, terrifyingly beautiful. At the center of each carving was a single figure, a woman holding a staff crowned with flame. Ilva pointed at the woman. "Ember Mistress Saralyn, last to stand guard before the city grew too arrogant." Aira traced a mural with her fingers. "Why didn't anyone else continue her work?" Ilva snorted. "Council claimed dragons were superstition, said the energy came from natural vents. Convenient lie for a city hungry for expansion. And no one noticed the truth?" "Some did. They died. Or were ignored," she smirked. "I chose to be ignored," Aira's voice trembled. "And you're saying this dragon, Razur, is waking now?" Ilva nodded slowly. "The pulse you feel is his heart. And today's crack in the obelisk? That is the first fracture in a prison that has held for centuries. Fifth, the dragon's dream. Aira couldn't sleep that night. She lay awake listening to the distant rumble beneath her floorboards. When she finally drifted off, a dream took hold, clear as glass, vivid as flame. She stood on a floating island of obsidian. The air shimmered with heat. Above her loomed a vast darkness, coiled and breathing. A colossal eye opened. It was gold, molten gold, shot through with rivers of crimson light. It stared into her soul. "You hear me?" the dragon said. Though its jaws never moved, the voice rang in her bones. Era could barely breathe. "Who are you?" "Razor." "Why are you beneath Varamor?" A low rumble shook the dreamscape. "I slept long before they came. They built upon my back, bound me, fed from my fire." Era swallowed. "Are you angry?" "Little spark," Razor murmured, amusement curling in the words. "I am ancient. I feel more than your words can name. But you're waking. Because the bindings weaken, the obelisk cracks. Your city stirs too greedily in my heat." Era hesitated. "Will you destroy Varamor?" Razor did not answer. The obsidian ground suddenly splintered. Lava surged upward. The dragon's wings unfurled, wider than any temple, brighter than any sun. "When I rise," he whispered, "the world will remember what fire means." Era jolted awake, sweat-drenched, heart racing. Outside, bells were tolling. Something was happening. 6th, the council's denial. The council chamber was chaos when Era arrived. Officials shouted over one another, trying to interpret the symbols projected in glowing red over the obelisk status table. Theron spotted her and motioned her over. "The obelisk's runic matrix is destabilizing rapidly," he said. "Someone, or something, is pushing heat upward at impossible levels." Era's voice was hoarse. "You know what's causing it." "Yes," Theron said tightly. "A geological surge." Era slammed her hands on the table. "Master, it's a dragon, a living, breathing dragon. Enough," Counselor Vexen thundered. "We will not humor tales of mythical beasts while our infrastructure fails." Era stepped forward. "I've spoken with him." The room went silent. Then laughter erupted. Vexen sneered. "You claim you had a conversation with—" "What precisely?" "Razor," Era said quietly. "The dragon beneath the city. He says the obelisk was never meant to hold forever." Vexen cut her off with a dismissive wave. "Remove her." Theron's face twisted with conflict, but guards were already advancing. And then, boom. The building shook violently. Lamps shattered, papers scattered, and glowing sigils on the far wall splintered into sparks. Screams erupted. Era steadied herself as a second blast rippled through the earth. A guard shouted, "The central ring just collapsed inward." Theron turned to Era, eyes wide with dawning horror. If what you say is true." "It is," she said. "And we don't have much time. 7th descent into fire." Era and Theron fled the chamber, heading toward the lower maintenance tunnels. Ylva was waiting there, leaning on a cracked masonry column. "Took you long enough," she said dryly. "He's fully stirring now. The bind runes are burning out." Theron gaped at her. You're supposed to be a myth. The Ember Watch vanished centuries ago." "And yet, here I am," Ylva said. "Try to keep up." She led them deeper until the tunnels became hot enough to steam the air. The ground vibrated constantly now, almost a rhythm. A heartbeat faster and faster. Era felt the voice rising like a tide at the back of her mind. "Little spark, you come—" She flinched. "We're close," she whispered. The tunnel opened into a cavern so enormous it seemed impossible it existed beneath the city. Lava flowed in rivers. Pillars of obsidian rose like spires. And in the center, a vast mound of scales, black as the void, veined with molten light. Each breath made the entire cavern shift. Razor. Theron fell to his knees in shock. Oh gods, it's real." Ylva chuckled. "Told you." The dragon stirred. Massive wings flexed, sending gales of heat rolling across the chamber. One golden eye opened. The cavern dimmed in comparison. "You return, little spark." Era stepped forward, trembling. "Razor, you have to stop. The city will collapse." People will die. They took from me. His voice was a storm. They bound me. They pierced my flesh with their runes. They drank my fire as if it were their right. They didn't know, Eira pleaded. Generations have passed. The truth was lost. Lost, Razor rumbled, or buried. Theron looked up, shame in his eyes. We built on lies. We didn't want to know. Ylva stepped forward, leaning on her staff. Razor, you know me? The dragon's gaze softened. Old Emberkeeper, still alive, barely, Ylva said, but alive enough to offer you this. Let us unbind you, safely, without destroying the city. Razor narrowed his eye. You think that possible? We can try, Eira said. The dragon considered her. Then he lowered his head, massive, terrifying, ancient, until his snout hovered inches from Eira. Then you, little spark, must go where no human has gone since the first binding. Eira's breath caught. Where? To my heart, 8th, the Heart Forge. The path into the dragon's chest was a glowing fissure wide enough for a person to enter but narrow enough to require courage or recklessness. Inside, the world was red. Heat shimmered in waves. The air tasted of metal and fire. Pillars of crystallized magma jutted from the walls like ribs. And deep within, suspended in a cage of ancient runes, was the Heart Forge, a device of old magic, forgotten magic, constructed from obsidian, gold, and dragon bone. It pulsed with each beat of Razor's heart. Theron stared, awestruck. This is impossible. It's the original binding mechanism, Ylva said. Long before the obelisk, this is what chained him. Eira stepped toward it. The runes were glowing erratically, faltering, burning out, sparking. If we dismantle it wrong, she murmured, his heart could rupture. Then dismantle it right, Ylva said. Eira swallowed hard. Her hands trembled as she reached for the first runestone, a small tile carved with the symbol for containment. The moment she touched it, the dragon's voice roared inside her mind. Careful, little spark. I know, she whispered. I'm trying. Piece by piece, she worked. Theron assisted, sweat pouring off him, though the elders had long condemned this magic. Ylva murmured prayers from a dying language. Then, the final rune cracked. The Heartforge shuddered. Eira stepped back just as the device collapsed inward and dissolved into dust. Everything went silent. For a single moment, the whole world held its breath. Then Razor's heart boomed, free, powerful, earth-shaking. The cavern shook violently. Lava surged. Above them, stone ceilings cracked. Theron shouted, "We have to go!" But Eira heard Razor's whisper, "Stay!" She turned back as the dragon unfurled, massive and terrifying, and beautiful. His bindings gone, his power rising, 9th the rise. When Razor rose from the cavern, Varamor saw its first true dawn in centuries. Streets cracked as his wings shattered the roof of the caverns. Steam geysers erupted across the city. People screamed and scattered as the ground split open. Eira stumbled out of the tunnels behind Ylva and Theron, just as Razor's head emerged into the central plaza. Panic spread instantly. "He's going to destroy everything," someone shouted. Councillor Vexen fled, shrieking orders. But Razor didn't attack. He simply looked at the streets, the spires, the thousands of terrified faces. Then he lifted his wings high and roared. Not a roar of rage, but of release. The heat vented upward, forming a column of fire that illuminated the sky. And when he spoke, the city fell silent. "You built your lives upon my prison. Now you stand upon my freedom." Eira stepped forward. "Razor, please. They're afraid. They don't understand." The dragon's eyes softened. "You freed me, little spark. You returned what was stolen. What happens now?" she asked. Razor stretched his wings wide, sending sparks cascading through the air. "Now?" he rumbled. "Now I rise." He lifted into the sky, massive, glorious, unstoppable, circling once above the city like a living comet. The heat that once powered Varamore faded as he ascended, drifting upward into cool morning air. For the first time since its founding, the city stood upon cold earth. Razur hovered, his wings beating slow and steady. "Live without my fire," he said. "Or learn to share it, not steal it." Then, with a final thunderous beat, he soared beyond the clouds, free, 10th a new flame. 3 weeks later, Varamore was rebuilding. The city had lost power, entire districts had collapsed. But strangely, people weren't angry. They were humbled. Bands of volunteers cleared rubble. Engineers worked to create new, sustainable energy systems. Scholars gathered to relearn the magic the Ember Watch once kept. And Aira, she became something new, a bridge between worlds. Children followed her through the streets, asking for dragon stories. Adults asked how to honor the old magic. The college asked her to teach what she'd learned. Varen, once her skeptic, now worked beside her every day. And Nilva, for the first time in decades, no longer walked the streets alone. One chilly evening, Aira climbed the highest tower of the college and stared out across the changing city. A warm wind brushed her face. She smiled. "Hazur?" she whispered. A distant rumble answered, faint but unmistakable. "Little spark," her heart swelled. "Will you come back?" she asked. Silence. Then, "When I am needed," a shadow passed across the moon, vast wings, glowing embers drifting behind. And then he was gone again into the night sky. Aira closed her eyes, feeling the warmth lingering on the wind. Varamore would never be the same, and